pick out Swinton versus whoever they're playing. There was a game between two of the relegation candidates.
Okay.
Very tempting to pick that out. But instead, we'll go with two of the sides that competed in the playoffs last year from this division. Toulouse versus York. I will say I think Toulouse are going to win. Toulouse to win at home with a good squad. Although York are a side who have gone and upset them in the past. So.
Yeah, to me, this is a cracking first game. We'll talk about the championship in a bit, but I think York might even be a bit better than last year. Although first round Toulouse at home, I'm going to stick with Toulouse to win this one.
Okay, Toulouse to win 2 times there. Don't forget the Google form links. I'm going to keep mentioning it for new listeners and for old listeners because we don't want to see the drop off in fan match reviews as the season goes on that we've seen last year because this is what the show was there for, your fan match reviews, so make sure that's they come in their numbers for all of those matches, the 4 Sky games, any other games that you're at, especially the other games that you're at. In fact, Hull KR and Catalan's games they are, and also the R League game Toulouse and York. Any championship game, we will talk about your fan views on those as well, of course, next week. And talking of the championship, we're now going to move on to Championship and League One fan expectations and our predictions. So we're sort of going to combine our Championship and League One fan previews in one show, but we're going to focus more on the Championship predominantly here, mostly because we've got Alan on, who's a Bradford fan and sees about a lot more of the Championship. We will talk a bit about League One this week, and we'll probably talk a little bit about League One as well with Tim next week being involved at Coventry. He'll have a bit more insight there. So we are going to run through first any fan views we had in on our season predictions for the teams in the Championship and League One. So we asked, what do you expect from your team this year? And this is what we got from those sides. So Barrow Raiders fan John Salisbury expects his team to be mid-table in League One this year.
And then I'm looking at what I wrote at the end of December. At the end of September, I said, seeing that half of last year's team will be warming the subs bench or sat in the stand at KR next year, I don't expect much. Well, that hasn't changed. Having said that, we're still here, which is always a bonus. Mid-table, I reckon. Fancy a run in the 1895 Cup.
As long as you don't have a run in the Challenge Cup, then you will. Yeah.
I think that's distinctly less likely this year.
For Featherstone Rovers, we had Dale Campbell, who expects a steady start and build into the year. It's all on the coach. Of course, the coach is James Webster, isn't it? That's right,
yes.
Isn't it? Who's come over from Hawkinson Rovers, so he's got some experience of head coaching in the Super League now, and now he's stepped down the division there with the Featherstone Rovers. Okay.
Yep, so Nathan Robbins on Halifax saying he thinks they'll surprise a few in the Championship. It's going to be a strong league, but Halifax love being underdogs, and they did very well out of that last year.
Yeah, London Broncos, we had a few for the London Broncos. So our first one is David Cantrell, who says, we'll make the playoffs. Top of the league will be very close between us, Toulouse, Fev and York, then a bit of a gap to the rest. Either us or Toulouse will go up. Interestingly, no mention of Lee there in that mix, but otherwise, I'm on board.
Yeah, I'll give you my prediction on the league in a bit. Ian Gatwood says playoffs, then anything is likely or indeed possible.
Paul Kemble says he expects them to just challenge in every match.
Also about London, Richard Lavender says give 100% and get promoted to Super League again.
We have a few from the Widnes Vikings as well. Donald McCrory is the first of those. He expects massive inconsistency, plenty of ups and downs, but making the playoffs, and who knows?
Neil McEwen, Keown, whatever you want to say. Witness to win the championship. 1895 Cup winners with Danny Craven winning Championship Player of the Year. Club to be bought by an Arab. Hang on a minute. Should this be in the Say What bit? Club to be bought by an Arab billionaire.
This is the Georgia Award for most positive prediction of the week.
Yeah, I'll give this its full due. Club to be bought by an Arab billionaire. It'll defo come true, honest. Or have I been sipping on Grandpa's couch medicine too much? But on a serious note, I'm hoping James Rule gets bummed by a Bradford bull, while walking through countryside looking like a smug prick.
I want him at Bradford, mate. You've had enough fucking off-field problems. Our old friend as well, another one of our old friends, Paul O'Brien. He expects Widnes to build from last season and make the playoffs.
And then to finish off, a couple from York City Knights. So firstly, from Darren Shepherd says, hopefully show last season wasn't a flash in the pan and finish in the playoffs again.
And then Karsten, who of course has migrated from Hull KR to York City Knights because of the German player being in their squad this year, the Kind Horse. So he expects York to be making the playoffs. So lots of positivity. Other than the chat from Barrow, I mean, maybe the relegation has hit large there on those guys up in Cumbria for the League One season ahead. We'll talk a little bit about League One in a minute, but let's start with the Championship. And one of the things you wanted to talk about was the new golden point system, Al.
Just in the sense that it's something new this year and it's a slightly different system to what Super League and the NRL is using. So for anyone who's kind of forgotten when it was originally announced, so it's similar in the fact that it's 2 5-minute periods, but I suppose the biggest difference is the fact that it's not a winner-takes-all situation in that even if you lose in the extra time, you still get a point. So in a sense, you'll come out awarding 3 points for the game, 2 points to the winner, and 1 point for the team that was ultimately lost but was drawing at the end of 80 minutes. Any comments about that as compared to the Super League system?
It has an intrinsic appeal for people who want draws to be rewarded, doesn't it? And I think lots of people, when Super League went to Golden Point, said, if we have to have it, why can't we get a point for a draw? And it looks like the RFL have heard that sort of feedback and thought, let's try and please everyone. I've talked before about my view on Golden Point, and one of the things that it started to occur to me is Golden Point is great for televised matches that don't involve my team. So any R-League game that goes to Golden Point, I'll be loving this system regardless. But it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if it has any weird sort of effects on the final standings compared to how there's obviously none of that effect from a Golden Point win in the other competitions that we're more familiar with.
No, possibly, but I mean, part of me just think that after 80 minutes, if you've managed to compete with the team to draw with them, I think you deserve a point. I mean, I'm not a fan of Golden Point anyway, so you're right. I think it's a slight sop to the traditionalists who don't necessarily see the point in it. If you forgive the pun. But yeah, I as a system, I think it's a reasonable compromise.
Fair. I mean, yeah, I think no one can be too unhappy with it. I don't think. And you pay your whatever you have to pay to get into these games, and you get 10 minutes more action, but you still go away without having nothing for your team. That's nice. It's a nice feeling.
Everyone gets something.
Just so have a quick recap of the predictions we talked about on the main preview and prediction show last week. We expect as an SLP collective, 33% of people thought Toulouse are going to win get promoted from the Championship. 30% thought Londoners be in that team, and third place, down on 12% though, was Lee. Most of us went for Toulouse, or Sarah went for London, so we're in that group with those top predictors. But you've been having a look through the different side squads in the Championship and have a view on which squads have got better, which squads have got weaker. So do you want to do that before you give your 1 to 14?
1 to 14, yeah. Yeah, I have, yeah. So I've kind of made an assumption that both Oldham and Whitehaven's squad has got better, because it has, as you'd expect as promoted teams. So going through it alphabetically, for me, both Bradford and Batley's squad is worse. Conversely, Dewsbury and Featherstone's squads are better. Halifax seems fairly similar. Lee's a bit better for now until a certain person changes his mind. London is obviously a weaker squad. A lot of turnover there. Sheffield, much of a muchness. Swinton, obviously worse because of their troubles. Toulouse, again, they've kind of kept the band together. Widnes, to me, looks like a worse squad. They've obviously lost some bigger names, but to me, York look like a better team. So, Can
I put you up on a couple of those?
Go on, shoot.
I don't think Bradford have got much worse. I don't see the huge drop-off in the Bradford squad. And actually, other than hooker, I would say is a position where maybe there's been a weakness. In the pack, there's additions like England and Zungu, who are going to bring quality to that there. In the backs, there's Joe Brown, who's back there permanent now, who I think is a very good young winger. And Widnes, I know there's been turnover and what have you there, but I suppose it's the forwards where it's not necessarily got better. But people like Shane Grady and Matty Smith in that squad, they're experienced players who can really help the rest of them. And then that young group of big, tall blokes, Chapelhow and Farnsworth are still there.
Mm.
And, Liam Cooper's coming as a good forward to have involved there. Sam Wilde and McGrath Luluai. So I think the squad's a little on the small side, not physically, numbers-wise, but I don't think they've got a ton worse, personally. But, I do take on board what you've been saying overall there.
I mean, I suppose the way that I was thinking about it was I think there's a bit of an omission, and I kind of noticed that when I looked at the recruitment. In terms of promotion, we haven't talked about Featherstone, and actually when I look at their recruitment, I think they'll be right up there again. Even accepting there's a new coach and a new regime, they've recruited a lot of big names. I think they'll definitely be in the top 5, and I do think their squad is stronger than it was last year. I think players like Louis Jouffre will make a big difference. He was kind of he did a lot of good things at Batley last year.
Craig Ball and Thomas Minns are arguably Super League quality, certainly on their day.
So, some people would say Craig Hall is everything, but putting that to one side.
Some people are Tim, and they're in Wembley. I'm not on the call tonight.
Yeah, but I mean, Craig Hall is still a great quality player. Ferris is, has his ups and downs, but he should do a storm at this level. They'll be a little bit more stable in terms of not being, Featherstone Rhinos this year to anything like the same extent. I think they'll be there or thereabouts for me, as a team that we haven't talked about. So
I think Lee are the team that maybe haven't been talked about enough. They've put the band back together. That's the key thing here. They've put the band back together. So they've got, McNally and Higson and Ben Reynolds back from the Super League season that he was there. He was very good that year there. Then they brought in Danny Addy as the captain, who I think is a player who is just a little bit of application off being a Super League player for his whole career. Jordan Thompson, Sam Brooks, Tom Spencer, these are players who've played a lot of games at this level or above. Ben Helliwell even coming in from the London Broncos.
I've got to say, Matty Wilde was really good for us last year as well, and he's obviously a new signing. So yeah, they're above the line for me, and I have made a bit of a distinction in the league. They're going to be up there for me.
So let's start breaking the league down, because for the last 2 years we've seen a clear split where there's been a top 7 and a bottom 7. Last year there was probably in the end a top top 6, a middle 2, and a bottom 6 in the end.